How do you sense this test match stands? Well and truly in Australia's control?
Yes, at the moment, yes. But again, I think our eyes will be peeled on the surface, because when we saw the last 1 hour, when the Indian seamers were bowling on it, I didn't see one ball rear from a length, which has been the feature of this pitch until now. So has this pitch now finally settled? We'll know only when the Australian big boys bowl on it.
Yeah.
So if the pitch remains a little, it looked almost benign in the last few minutes. If that continues, if the behavior of the pitch improves, then the batters will have, at least, you might be able to survive longer than they did in the first inning. But at the moment, Australia well in front.
Yeah, it did seem like a more harmless, friendly sort of pitch last session, maybe a bit of the afternoon session, given that Australia have only gone at 2.79. Whereas both the first innings were around the 4-over mark. Australia's just under, India's just over. Do you sense India have actually done a good job by keeping things under control, something that was missing in the first innings?
The pitch, again, has a bit to do with it. It's become dry, it's become a little slow. Plus the fact that we had that brilliant run rate from Australia in the first inning was thanks to somebody like a Travis Head, played well. Steve Smith also was very proactive. They lost some wickets. Usman Khwaja got out. Travis Head got out early. So the Indians, one thing I noticed in the way the seamers bowled was they were keeping it simple. There were a lot of balls that were bowled outside the off stump. The odd bouncer was bowled. In the first inning, they were seeking wickets as they should, something that you expect. But in the second inning, having now being aware of the deficit, they were a little more conservative, and thanks to Jadeja, a couple of wickets. They're just in the game enough to feel motivated and not feel defeated at this stage.
All right, let's go straight to Jadeja then. You did say that if India are to have some kind of interest in this game, Jadeja has to chip in with wickets, and that he did. Let's start with the Steve Smith wicket, because he did that at will, Sanjay, in the first innings. He stepped out and almost with authority showed Jadeja where he wants to hit him. Different this time, it looked ugly because he was dismissed. So what's happened there?
Yeah, the first two lofted shots in the first inning that we saw in the coverage as well, the balls were identical. And this was Jadeja bowling tight, and Steve Smith didn't give any indication to Jadeja that he's going to be stepping out and hitting that. So maybe the bowler was taken by surprise. But here, if you see, when he got out, the moment Jadeja has gone there, he sensed Steve Smith trying to do the same thing. Beautiful bowling. Just a little wider. Slow, maybe marginally slow, but there was turn in the pitch. I'm not saying turn the kind Nathan Lyon got to get Jadeja out, but just enough sort of angle change which induced that mistake. Because Steve Smith, the kind of player that he backs himself to hit those shots. There's just that little angle change because of the wearing of the pitch, drier pitch, which wasn't the case in the first inning. That induced the false shot.
All right, that was the first centurion from the first innings, or one of the centurions of the first innings. The other one was Travis Head. 18 of 27, 2 sixes, both of which on another day could have been catches in the outfield. And then he presents a cotton bowled. Sum up the innings and the dismissal, Sanjay.
You get some idea as to why they were reluctant to play Travis Head in India in the first couple of matches. Because we got an indication today that he looked really all at sea, to be very honest. And not just trying to attack Jadeja. The first over that he played of Jadeja, and this is Jadeja not really at his best because the pitch is not turning. He's doing the simple thing. But just got the length wrong, played back to ball that were full, missed a drive that went in between bat and pad, and then tried to take him on. And obviously there were a couple of missed chances there, but didn't look convincing at all, which is surprising for somebody who played so well in India with 116 the first inning. So that was inning hard to understand. He should be very disappointed with it, leading people to believe is Australia now trying to press the pedal and score runs quickly. It wasn't the case, because Cameron Green has come in and played like you would normally. So disappointing, and he wouldn't be proud of that little stint.
Would you sense India would have taken a lot learning from the first innings if only they had employed a similar plan? Even the short stuff to Head at the other end seemed to cause him discomfort. So they've clearly learned from the first innings.
Yes, and the pitch also was an invitation for Jadeja to come in. You could see that there was a rough outside, not the kind that is lethal or in the perfect position from where the ball will bounce and get your wicket. But there was more for Jadeja, and more reasons for him to come in and bowl. But India, at the moment, in deficit, catching up is only because of how they bowled in that first innings, especially the first couple of hours, and how they weren't as proactive. And that is where Test cricket can be so hard on you. You made small mistakes in the first session. And Australia hasn't allowed India to come back yet.
So you're saying the bigger difference at stumps on day 3, that deficit of 296, is more about how India bowled and not as much about their top 4 getting collectively 58 runs, I think, if I've got my quick math right?
It's something that India are now used to almost. Whenever they play away from India, that is a scenario that we've got where there is a bit of a collapse, and then eventually India gets enough runs to compete and their bowlers sort of get them back in the game. But now for me, what is coming out is the amount of return that they're getting from the pitch. Shami obviously has bowled a lot in the first innings. Siraj came in, bowled with a lot of spirit. Umesh Yadav, got a wicket to a full ball. But overall, I see them getting less and less out of the surface. Now, in the second innings, if we see the big boys come in and get far more from the pace, then you know exactly where Australia have been better than India.
56 amongst the top 4 in the first innings for India. Before we wrap things up, Usman Khawaja has had a quiet test match. We thought he'd be one of the players to watch out for with how he finished the Border Gavaskar Trophy. The dismissal today, similar in some ways, got behind to the first one?
Yeah, but I think surprised by the length, because that was very full, wide enough, and he was leaving a lot of balls. And this is a guy who can leave balls forever. But a guy who loves to be on the back foot and not very keen to get onto the front foot, that's a length that you've got to keep trying. But this was maybe him leaving so many balls and finally getting sucked into playing that one. But it's not a case where you feel, what happened to Usman Khawaja? It's just one of those things, because this guy knows how to get runs, knows how to bat time. So India is very lucky to have got that wicket. David Warner is somebody you think might be the easier wicket to get. With Usman Khawaja, that was a big bonus right at the start.
All right. With 44 overs done, I was still waiting to see if India's selection would have given us reason to review our initial thoughts on day 1 and 2. What if going into the second inning, Umesh Yadav had a great game, or it moved about, and we almost see Jadeja coming more into the game? It makes us revisit the point. What if they had 2 spinners going? Ashwin, maybe Nathan Lyon could play a big role in the 4th inning. So India still, you feel, got this wrong, didn't they?
Yeah, that is where one of the gospels of reading a pitch is you've got to look at the history of the pitch, because what you see on top is you and me wearing a jacket and a shirt, but what's inside?
Oh my!
So that's a different story. I mean, people don't change; their clothing changes. So Oval has a history of supporting spin towards the end. I remember Muthiah Muralidharan getting 8 or 9 wickets and may have been a match-winning performance. So that's happened a lot. And despite the green cover, they should have gone in. I don't mind them, bowling first, being a little, worried about their batting to be exposed straight away in this big test match against a quality batting lineup with overhead conditions. But Ashwin and Jadeja would have been pretty handy.
जिस पे नाम सिर्फ एक का हो,
लेकिन हो पूरे देश के नाम।
उस चीज को हाउ डू आई डिस्क्राइब इट? इस जर्सी के लिए मेरे फीलिंग समझाना इम्पॉसिबल है,
पर इसे पहन के
I feel just one thing, impossible
इज नथिंग।